Welcome ladies and gentlemen to this video. Elon Musk is the richest person on earth and his current net worth is a staggering $243 billion. This is an unprecedented amount of wealth which could be gauged from the fact that it is even more than the GDP of many countries including Finland, Greece and Portugal. We will first investigate the strategy which Elon Musk used to make 151 times gains and also got cash which he needed. The level of Elon Musk's wealth could be gauged from the fact that even if he spends $1 million a month, it will take him over 19,000 years before his wealth goes to zero. Now, for many of us, we could only dream of such a situation where we would have the financial muscle to spend over $1 million a month. Now, Elon Musk is over 50 years old, and if he lives for another 50 years, he would have to spend over $4.8 billion every year or over $13 million every day for all the coming years of his life to be worth $0. Now, would he be motivated to spend that much money each day? Perhaps we can go and ask him on Twitter. Now, the problem with his wealth is that it is not real and it only exists on paper. In other words, a significant portion of his wealth is in the form of his Tesla stocks, which he won't sell. Since if he will do that, the stock price of Tesla will plummet. Tesla, as we know, is not making enormous profits at this point, and if he sells his stock, it might come across as him not trusting the business prospects and potential of Tesla. It will cause a barrage of negative news and the market cap of Tesla will go down significantly. So the fact of the matter is that he is definitely not as rich as the Forbes tell us. Now we can come to the truth and the reason why Elon Musk likes debt so much. We know that it would be very tax inefficient to sell Tesla stocks since he would have to pay a 20% capital gains tax that will reduce his net worth, and then he will not be on the top of Forbes richest list. To shoot two birds simultaneously, meaning to tackle the leakage of money and at the same time get cash when he wants, he uses a simple strategy. He simply borrows money by using his Tesla shares as a collateral. So in simple words, he goes to the bank and says, "Would you give me a loan of $200 million? And if I am not able to pay you the money back, I give you the legal right to sell my Tesla shares." Now, in response to that, the staff of the bank will first look at the risk in doing so. They look at the growth potential of the company, and after making sure that it won't be a big risk to do so, they give him the money for a very low interest of just 1 or 2%. That is a win-win situation because the bank makes money by making the money work for them, meaning the loaned money gives them interest each year instead of doing nothing. And for Elon Musk, it is a great way to get cash since firstly it won't harm the stock price of Tesla, and secondly he will be using the wealth that exists on paper, or let's say that is tied up in Tesla stocks, to assess cash. And secondly, since we are legally exempted or not required to pay taxes on debt, Elon Musk will not pay any taxes. So let's see how Elon Musk used debt in the past. Back in 2012, he bought his first mansion in Bel Air for $17 million. At that time, the price of Tesla stock was just $6. Now, at that point, of course, Elon Musk had the option to sell Tesla stocks of worth $17 million, which would be around 3 million Tesla stocks in 2012. But he did not do that since he knew the potential of the company, and right now, today, these shares are worth over $2.58 billion. If he had rather sold the 3 million shares in 2012 to buy the house, he would have lost over $2.563 billion. In other words, he won't be able to leverage the future growth of the company and would have deprived himself of 151.764 times gains. And it would have plummeted the Tesla stock also, which would be catastrophic. So now you know just one reason why billionaires love debt so much. They use debt to not only create enormous wealth, but also assess cash when needed. Here is another strategy which billionaires use to multiply their wealth, which is borrowing shares of companies instead of money. They sell borrowed shares at the market price and then use their influence to crush the market so that they can buy back the shares of shorted companies at much lower prices and return it to the firm from which they borrowed the shares. Since they borrowed the shares and not money, they return the shares to the company and pocket the difference in price. For example, if they borrow 10 shares of a company with each costing $10, they will first sell the shares and pocket $100, and after manipulating the market when the share price drops to, let's say, $2, they buy the 10 shares back at $2 a share and return it to the lender. In that case, it costed them $20 to buy the shares that they initially sold for $100. Therefore, they made a profit of around $80. Of course, they will have to pay a little bit of interest to the broker from which they borrowed the shares. So let's say that instead of $80, even if they make $78, it isn't a bad deal, isn't it? And the beauty of this strategy is that you can use it to short not just shares, but also the bond market. Let's see how Bill Ackman used this strategy to make over $2 billion in a few months. His investment acumen and brilliance can be gauged from the fact that he first shorted the bond market in February and made $2.6 billion. Then he used that money to go long the stock market in March to again back an additional $1 billion. That was a legendary execution. Given the ROI and how quickly it materialized, Ackman's initial trade is considered by some to be the best trade of all time. Others refer to it as pure genius. And it does not end here. No way! Let us go through some examples which will show you that billionaires really love debt and use it as a vehicle to generate unimaginable amount of wealth, and they play their game at a level which is hard to comprehend for majority of people. The British economy was in a turmoil in the 1990s. The high inflation and increasing unemployment were putting stress on the middle class. At the same time, the government was also in big trouble. And if that was not enough, the Britain desperately wanted to devalue their currency to survive in these turbulent times. But the problem was that Britain was the part of ERM, which stands for European Exchange Rate Mechanism, that fixed the different European currencies against one another with the sole purpose of prevention against currency fluctuations.
Earlier, in a day of high drama, as the Governor of the Bank of England plied between Whitehall and the City, the Treasury and the Bank of England fired off one after another of their biggest guns in a final effort to live up to the government's pledges to do whatever was necessary to keep the pound in the ERM.
The aim of ERM was to make it easy for businesses throughout Europe to trade with one another. As a result of this rare situation, the British pound declined and Britain went into recession. To prevent matters from getting bad to worse, the Bank of England was forced to buy billions of dollars worth of pounds to keep the pound at the same rate as other European countries.
First, the Bank of England and other central banks spent several billion pounds worth of foreign currencies, buying the pounds others wanted to sell. Then the Bank of England raised interest rates 2% to try to persuade speculators to stop selling. When that failed, it raised them another 3%. But still, the enemy kept coming. By the end of the day, the pound had fallen several pennies below its supposed ERM floor.
Now think about this for a moment. On one hand, a country like Great Britain, which is one of the most influential countries on global political stage, is in chaos. And on the other hand, George Soros saw it as a wonderful opportunity to make billions of dollars. After thoroughly analyzing the situation and numbers, he realized that the Bank of England was left with no other option but to devalue the pound even if it had to leave ERM. To George Soros, this was the opportunity of a lifetime, and he used the same trick as Bill Ackman used. The only difference is that instead of stock or bond market, he used the Forex market, but the concept was the same. Let's see how. So George Soros got in touch with various hedge funds and banks. He borrowed billions of pounds at a very low interest rate and then sold them in the Forex market in exchange of German marks. After doing that, he had billions of German marks in the bank account. Remember that he had to return Great British pounds to lenders and not the German marks. So the strategy was simple. George Soros was waiting for the Great British pound to collapse. Once that happens, he will buy back the pounds for very cheap and return the borrowed pounds to the hedge funds and other institutions, and he will pocket the difference. Now let's see how this plan played out. On the 16th of September, the president of the Bundesbank said in an interview that it is possible for some currencies to come under pressure. That same day, Right after that interview, George Soros started calling all the major banks and hedge funds to borrow as many pounds as possible. By Monday next day, he had borrowed over $10 billion worth of pounds. The Bank of England was in chaos and the pound was plummeting. The Bank of England raised the interest rates to 15% and purchased $27 billion worth of pounds.
The most dramatic U-turn in government economic strategy for 25 years was forced on the Prime Minister and Chancellor by the overwhelming pressure of billions upon billions of pounds being sold in the foreign exchange markets. The pound will now be left to find its own level in the markets, inevitably below the ERM floor, which the government was pledged to defend.
But it was too late, and the entire market had started selling the pound after the move of Soros. By the end of the day, England left ERM and devalued the pound.
A unique day in London's financial markets ended with the Chancellor announcing that the pound was being suspended from the ERM, and that the second of two dramatic interest rate rises during the day was after all cancelled.
Today has been an extremely difficult and turbulent day. Massive speculative flows have continued to disrupt the functioning of the exchange rate mechanism. As chairman of the Council of European Finance Ministers, I have called a meeting of the Monetary Committee in Brussels urgently tonight to consider how stability can be restored to the foreign exchange markets. In the meantime, the government has concluded that Britain's best interests are served by suspending our membership of the exchange rate mechanism.
Soros profited over $1 billion during this whole drama without spending even a single penny of his own, by only leveraging the billions of pounds that he had borrowed. So he broke the Bank of England and profited over $1 billion by using the power of debt. So can we now say that debt is bad? In 2005, Michael Burry shorted the mortgage-backed securities exactly like Soros shorted the pound. He saw the opportunity and borrowed as many mortgage-backed securities as possible. After borrowing them, he immediately sold them in the open market and was sitting on a huge amount of cash. He was hoping that when the market will crash, as per his analysis, he would be able to buy these securities at a much lower price and return them back to borrowers and pocket the difference. Just like Bill Ackman and George Soros, everyone thought that he has lost his mind and it was a crazy move to bet against the housing market, but things turned out as Michael Burry predicted. On the 16th of September 2005, Michael Burry made a personal profit of $100 million. Once again, he did not use a single penny of his own, and all of that was done with debt. So now we know why billionaires love debt so much. They leverage it to create generational wealth. They know what they are doing. They make sure that the interest which they have to pay on the loan is less. Debt is a powerful tool, but it is not for everyone. It could be your best tool to create generational wealth, but can also give you sleepless nights and put you under severe financial stress. I have seen that if successful businessmen have hundreds of millions of dollars sitting in their personal bank accounts, they won't use that money to grow their business. They rather inform the banks that their company has the money and they borrow an equivalent amount of money from banks to finance the operations of their business. When the end of tax year approaches and when it is the time to pay taxes, they claim that the company has not made any profits on paper since the company owes bank the borrowed amount. As a result of this, they don't pay a single penny in taxes instead of paying a 21% corporate tax. And if they need money to pay for their private jet or for traveling in first class from one country to another or staying in an awesome 5-star hotel, they use the company's funds to pay for their private jet and their air tickets and the luxurious hotels. And they write them off as business expense at the end of the tax year. That is exactly what almost every company in Europe, USA and other parts of the world do. Remember that before using debt as a tool and taking advantage of it, you must make sure that it won't become a nightmare for you. Try to avoid personal loans or other high interest loans since they are bad for your finances. Not just me, but any experienced investor or entrepreneur will tell you that you must run your numbers before taking advantage of debt. Let me know in the comments below. Would you like me to do such videos in future? Furthermore, what sort of topics would you like me to cover in the future videos? If you found this video useful, please don't forget to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you like such content, please please consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You all are awesome. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video.